Hey y'all, it's Necey Dixon. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you are new here, welcome. If you are returning, y'all, welcome back and happy Halloween. Okay, shout out to y'all who are already in the chat. Alicia on her happy Halloween and Shay K. What's up, y'all? Yes, I've dyed my hair black. Yes, the blonde was eating my hair the F up. And no, this ain't all of my hair. This is a wig from Nadula Hair. I mean, I can link it if y'all want, but I need to wear it for a little while before I actually give y'all a review. If y'all want like a hair review, then I can do it on my backup channel. So comment below, let me know, okay? Hey Monique. Monique says nothing but eyebrows and attitude. This is in reference to Destiny, Keisha Bellamy, and y'all. I didn't think that the episodes this week was just like giving a whole lot. So I just decided that we could just combine this into a mashup. It would be much better than to just spend, all this time doing video and then video. Okay. So we're going to start off with Ready to Love, and then we're going to end with Love and Marriage Huntsville. What that sound like to y'all? Okay. And we really don't even have like an extra special thumbnail because, like I told y'all, we mashed it up, but for good time's sake, for what we always do, let me go ahead and show y'all the thumbnail. Ready to Love and Love and Marriage Huntsville. I tried to show y'all two of my favorite parts of the show. I missed y'all last week on Ready to Love, but I'm so glad that we got to circle back on Carrie and Tyrone because I wanted to talk to y'all about what I thought about Carrie and Tyrone. Okay. And then, of course, Love and Marriage Huntsville, y'all. I forgot what they named the episode, but over here, I'm going to name this episode of Love and Marriage Huntsville Drama for Your Mamas. Drama for the mamas, okay? Because it was nothing but mama drama this episode. But, it was a nice change of pace. Definitely better than seeing Mel and Martell argue. Okay? Do y'all agree? I'm sure y'all do. Because I was like, whoa, if we see it one more time, I'm going to lose it, okay? Rachel, hey. Miss Bell, thank you so much. Only one jaw. Naturally Mars, Sam J, just here. What's up, y'all? So let's go ahead and get into this review, y'all. As I said, brunch is back on schedule. So, Ready to Love, we're going to jump into that first. So, y'all, the episode starts out in the men's lounge, and we find out that the men has the power this week to send one person home. And I have to say it like that because nephew Tommy always says, two people are going, duh. You got to add the dramatics to it. So too bad it's not two, but it's one person going home, okay? So the men had the power this week. I also wanted to call out, since I didn't review last week, that the ladies have a women's lounge, okay? And it actually looks like it's going to be their consistent spot for filming because y'all know last season I kept telling y'all that they had the ladies out here sweating their leave out, sweating the edges off your lace fronts outside while the men were inside and they actually had a lounge. So it's nice to see that the women actually have a lounge as well. But this week we're in the men's lounge. One person is going home. So, of course, we get into all of the dates, right? The first date we see is Aisha and Frank. Aisha and Frank, I actually think they're a match. I think they're both very funny looking. I'm not even gonna lie to y'all. They are very funny looking, but it's something about them that I feel like is a match. At least for now. I definitely have my eyes open, or I'm side eyeing Frank a little bit because Frank is just so smooth. But it's definitely not out of left field that he has an attraction to Aisha. So they start out the date. It looks like they're just like playing pool or something. And in the beginning of the date, he tells her, like, hey, I'm really feeling you. You are my number one. And I was like, okay, that's what's up. I'm glad that he is solidifying that so early. But that could also be dangerous. Y'all know how that goes. But then he starts mentioning things that he remembered about her that he found important. He likes that she's a mother. He likes that she's a boss and she's about her business. And it seems to me like he's either really smooth and good with his words, or either he really took the time to consider what it was that he liked about Aisha. And it seemed a lot more genuine than what I seen a lot of other dudes talk about, especially Carrington, who went home last week. Thank God he got the boot because I was ready, okay? So anyway, I'm like, okay, I see you, Frank. You really feeling her. Then they go over to the photo booth. And they're getting very flirty, and you could tell Frank wanted a kiss so bad, y'all. Frank kept, kissing her on the cheek, and Aisha just kept sticking her tongue out, and she would never just turn her face so they could make that full connection. And you could tell Frank really wanted to put his mouth on her. And it was too funny because they made like a joke where she like got in front of him and kind of, straddled, and he was like, "Hey, I'll close this booth. I'll shut these curtains down right now, and I'm down for it all," is what he was telling her. So, I want to say I really do like Frank and Aisha, but y'all know it's something about these men on every season of Ready to Love where I feel like something is going to happen and they are going to disappoint me. So I'm gonna hold my breath, okay? I have good feelings about Frank and Aisha, but I'm gonna hold my breath. This man too smooth with his words, okay? So now, y'all, we really can get into. Y'all see my dog in the background? He's trying to be seen. Okay, so now, y'all, we can get into the next date, or I guess we could call it a conversation. This is between Tyrone and Carrie. Last episode, y'all, I'm gonna just throw some stuff in because I didn't talk to y'all last week about Ready to Love, but we found out why Tyrone is always on Ready. Because I was like, what is going on? We found out that he has PTSD from being in the war. So I thought that it was entirely too early for Carrie to be so upset that a man told her that he was not interested in her. I also found that it was too early for Tyrone to jump the gun and say that he was no longer interested. But in my opinion, I would much rather Tyrone tell you that he doesn't have the capacity to entertain you than to straggle you along, and he's your only connection. Because y'all, let's be real, Carrie didn't connect with anybody else. So if Carrie would have been, if she would have stayed on this show, you would have only stayed and been Tyrone's number 2 or 3, and you would have went home anyway. So shout out to Tyrone for being honest and telling you that he didn't have the capacity. Now, this is where I disagree with Tyrone. He says that he interpreted Carrie's actions as being aggressive. Carrie says, "I know what type of woman I am. I was not being aggressive at all. I just wanted clarity." Now, the situation they're talking about is Tyrone's number 1 is obviously Shiloh. And I don't know if I should really say obviously, because y'all know how they do on Ready to Love. You always hear about these connections that we don't ever see play out on screen. But the reason why I'm saying obviously with Tyrone and Shiloh is Shiloh just has a very peaceful spirit about her. And it seems like Tyrone needs that in his life. Similar to what we saw a few seasons ago with Joy and the chef with the braces. I can't remember his name, but if y'all have seen this show before, y'all know who I'm talking about. Joy and the chef with the braces. She seemed to bring him a lot of peace. He too had PTSD, and I think he was a soldier as well. So anyway, he like, yes, okay, Shay K, I'm glad you brought up that point because I almost forgot that happened last week. So Shay K says her issue is that he told Shiloh before he told Carrie because she had to hear it from Shiloh. That is true. But in the same breath, y'all, they've only been on the show for about a week. So I don't understand why Carrie felt like they needed an explanation or some sort of closure. This ain't your man. I wouldn't have gotten that, I guess, hurt over it. I don't think that this was a conversation that was even warranted, but whatever. This was her only connection. So I guess so. Anyway, he said that she felt a way about him getting the number. She said she didn't. I don't think that she was aggressive at all. I think she probably was just flirtatious with Tyrone. Tyrone doesn't know how to entertain that many women at once, like he said, and that's just that on that. So I'm not going to look at Tyrone like he's the bad guy in this situation. And I'm glad that I didn't, because as we go on throughout this episode, we start to see how awkward Carrie is with the other men on the show as well. So it's no surprise that her and Tyrone really didn't have that conversation. It was not conversation, connection. It was really something that was just off about Carrie. And I kind of peeped it from the premiere episode. So now, y'all, we will move on to the next day. The next day is a double date. We get corny ass Corey, okay? Lame ass Corey. Cringe ass Corey. Y'all, I was going back and forth over, did I want to make the thumbnail about Corey again? Or did I want to give somebody else a spotlight? Y'all, we gonna talk about Corey, but he just wasn't thumbnail worthy this week. I was tired of him already. So Corey is on a date with Courtney, who we know is also interested in Cornelius. The feeling's mutual, but Cornelius is tied up or either chained up to Camille. Camille is the woman who's very much given Denise from a couple seasons ago. So now, y'all, I thought this day was going to be super interesting. And like I said, since I didn't get to talk to y'all about Ready to Love last week, I can tell y'all now that I'm not really feeling Camille. Camille is definitely giving insecure vibes, especially on that date that she was on with Walter and Cornelius and Courtney. It's almost as though she was asking questions that she thought would put her in a better position than Courtney. So the questions that stuck out to me was, number one, the sex before marriage, and was she a religious person? Courtney kept it all the way real. She was like, no, I have to have sex before marriage. Ain't nothing wrong with that. It's 2021. It's your preference. Just like Camille, ain't nothing wrong with you not wanting to have sex. But you thought that Courtney's answer was going to put you in a better position than her. But what we really getting from Corey is that he would like to wait until marriage, but then he also mentioned something about a slip up. So it sounds like Corey is like, I'm not Corey. It sounds like Cornelius is down to have sex. But if it happened, they just gonna pray for forgiveness and then keep it moving. So I don't think that that put Camille in a better position than Courtney at all. So anyway, Corey, he's on motherfucking creep mode. They're skating around the skating rink. Courtney skating. He got his hands on her waist. He's all behind her ass. Every 2 seconds, his hand is on her low back, basically on her ass. And then he finally gets her over to a corner. She has her back against the wall. He pulls up on her. Look at how close his crotch is to her crotch. I was disgusted. And I don't know, this calls for a deep conversation that I'm actually excited to have, y'all, because this is the second time that or actually the third time that I feel like the women have allowed a pass for Corey to be a creep. Corey is just the type of dude where he's so lame, you don't really want to give him time of day, but he's also so lame and trying so hard that you think that he might just treat you well and not really play you. But what you don't know is that he's so lame that that's the one that would actually play you. And then you will be mad at yourself for even giving him an opportunity. We've seen it happen with Newman when she went on the date with him and allowed him to hunch up behind her on that tree stub. That was cringe. We've seen it happen with Tasia whenever she took him on an elimination date and she said that she saw a different side of Corey. And now we're seeing it with Courtney. I was thoroughly confused whenever he pulled up on her like this, no social distancing at all. And he said, are you comfortable with this? And she said, yeah. I don't know if she honestly was comfortable with it or if she just didn't want to embarrass him. It's just very weird to me. Yes, Shay K. I don't like how Corey will touch the women, then ask for permission after. That is so creepy to me. It's light rape predatorial. And that's the things that women hate about going on dates with men, meeting up with men they don't know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's disgusting. You think that all this is a game and it's just very cringe. It puts women in uncomfortable positions. But what I need to know is, why is it that the women feel like Corey can get a pass? Y'all know just how creepy he is. Y'all know just how lame he is. But part of y'all, is it a part of the game? Maybe you just need a spot on the show to get close to who you really want. So you keep him as one of your options. Like, I can see if that was the case. But especially with Newman last week, I'm not understanding why she actually was considering Corey. I don't know. It made me feel like she didn't have a lot of self-confidence, because you could do much better. Okay. So anyway, while we're also at the skating rink, we see Camille and Cornelius have conversations. As I mentioned to y'all, Camille questioned Courtney last week on sex before marriage, I felt like she thought that Courtney's answer would put her in a better position than Courtney in the eyes of Cornelius. So since Courtney was so transparent, was like, I don't give a damn. Like, I'm gonna have some peen before I get married. Of course, that comes back up. She asked Cornelius about sex, and I can't remember exactly what Cornelius said. I think Cornelius said he was down either way. Like, I'm down to wait. It would be nice to wait, but he's also down to. He didn't want to say he was down for sex, but the way I interpreted his answers, it was like, I'm down, but I can't say I'm down because I'm a Christian. That's what I was getting. So the other thing, thank y'all so much for the compliments on my hair. I'm trying to switch it up before we get into my birthday. So y'all, the other thing that she talks to him about is money, bank accounts. Is he debt free? We find out that he is debt free. So I'm like, okay, Cornelius, you looking like a very eligible bachelor. Okay. And in Cornelius' confessional, he says that he likes Camille, but he also feels like he has to watch her because he doesn't want her to get possessive to the point to where he's not able to make connections with other people. So Cornelius, I think you need to draw the line. I'm actually disappointed that y'all didn't do the switcheroo on this date. Like, there should have been no reason that you didn't spend time with both Camille and Courtney on this date, because Camille is not your woman. I don't know why she is so territorial. So I just wish that you had the opportunity to make a connection with Courtney, because I can tell you right now, Camille ain't gonna work. It's something wrong with Camille. That's my guess, y'all. It's something wrong, because I'm not understanding how you're being so possessive of this dude. Like, it's very flirty and it's cute a little bit at first, but after that, it's like, damn, back up. Then we find out that you have been engaged 3 times before this. She described herself as a man eater in the special. Well, she didn't use the words man eater. Those were my words, where she says that she's all in on someone, and then all of a sudden she's like, boom, I don't want you anymore. So Cornelius, I think you need to keep your options open. And I really hate that you didn't give Courtney enough time on this date. So now we'll move on to the next date. The next date that we see is Newman and Walter. Y'all, Newman to me is just, she's beautiful. She's so pretty. She kind of reminds me of like 7th Streeter. And honestly, y'all, when I saw Newman in the special, I imagined that Naeem would be attracted to her because he kept talking about how he likes his women super melanated and everything else. So I was like, you know what? Maybe that's Naeem and Newman, but we haven't seen that connection. But what we did see this week is Walter and Newman. And y'all, I think they look cute together. Walter has like a common John Legend-esque vibe about him. I feel like there's definitely an age gap between him and Newman, but they both discussed that they're open to marriage and they definitely want kids, marriage before kids. So I'm like, okay, cool. Also on this date, they have a deeper conversation about Walter and his upbringing. He talks about how he wrote a letter to his dad who wasn't in his life. So it seems like they broke another layer. They're on to the next level. So I guess Newman is a top contender for Walter as well. One person we didn't see this episode at all was Sabrina. Y'all, what's going on? Sabrina. We haven't seen her at all this episode. So I'm happy to see that Walter wasn't just locked down to Sabrina from episode 1 and that he's able to make other connections. Now, y'all, we can go ahead and move on to the next date, which to me was cringe. Carrie is cringe. We see Phil, Carrie, Dante, and Shiloh, and they're going on an exercise date. I don't know. Y'all, let me read this comment from Kay. Kay says, sad part is that women are used to this type of behavior and sometimes will act like it's okay so the guy won't blow up or become violent. Yes, Kay, this is in regards to Corey and his creep antics, okay? Creep squad. I don't know. So they were on this workout date, y'all. And like I mentioned, Phil, Carrie, Dante, and Shiloh, we know that Dante and Shiloh had made a connection from the beginning. They both like to meditate and do all that other stuff. But I will say that I'm happy that Phil had a one-on-one with Shiloh on this date and not Dante, because my pet peeve is whenever people cling on to one person the entire time. And like Shay said, y'all, be sure to like the video on your way in. I'm gonna wait. 2, 1, because this is a 2-for-1, y'all. We got Love and Marriage Huntsville coming up next, so y'all be sure to like the video. So anyway, let's go ahead and talk about Phil and Shiloh in the bottom picture. They had an interesting conversation. They were pretty flirtatious. They talked about meditation, breathing, and Shiloh talked about her preference for PDA. And when she said that, I was like, yes, because I'm low-key the same way, y'all. I hate PDA. Kissing in public, holding hands and that stuff is super weird to me. But like discreet PDA where, you walk in, you just touch the shoulder, you touch the leg. I'm like, okay. But y'all remember, Shiloh is also an intimacy coach. So she has that spiritual thing about her. She got crystals in her home, it seemed like. So that's why I feel like she would be a good match for Tyrone. I don't know if Tyrone is ready for her, but I definitely see why they made the connection. And I also feel like a lot of the men are attracted to her because she has this sensual sexuality about her. So they Phil and Shiloh get along. Then let's go to the other room. In this middle picture here, we see Dante and Carrie. And Carrie, baby. This ain't it. Your man ain't here. She leans over and says, I'm so glad you're here. We finally get to hang out. And just look at the picture, y'all. Look at the body language. Carrie is the one leaning into Dante, whereas Dante is just chilling. He says, yeah, I'm here. Good to see you too. But he was not excited to get to know Carrie in that type of way. So she was asking him about his connections. He was asking about hers. And the most cringiest part was when she said, do you want me? And I was like, Carrie, wrong road. That is embarrassing. You could tell where there were moments in the conversation where she had thoughts and then she stopped her thoughts and the conversation just wasn't fluid at all. It was weird. So it was that moment when I was 100% certain that Carrie was about to go home. And it also resonated with the awkwardness that she probably has with Tyrone. Tyrone is awkward as hell himself. So imagine Carrie and Tyrone on a date together. So that's another reason why I'm like, girl, why are we pressed on Tyrone not wanting you? Like, girl, it's not that serious. So we can go ahead and move on to the next date. The next day, we see Naeem and Zadia. I actually really like Naeem and Zadia together. Something about Naeem just seems authentic. He don't really seem like much of a playboy just yet. And something about Zadia to me just seems really cool. But before we started watching the show and we just saw the cast lineup, something in my heart just told me that if anybody was going to get played this season, it would end up being Zadia. Zadia is so pretty. She's sweet, but she's the I'm not even trying to say I don't think she's top tier pretty, but what I'm saying is based on the way that I've seen men date on this show, Zadia is pretty, period. And those are typically the girls that get played. Like if I have to think about somebody for an example, do y'all remember when they were in Houston and Alexis was dating the dark-skinned dude? They didn't have like a deep connection, but she clinged on to him. And everybody else had so much more going on. And in the end, Alexis ended up getting played. She was pretty, very capable of making connections with men on the show, but it just didn't happen for her. I don't know. I just get that vibe with Zadia. I really do. They had a good vibe. So as long as Naeem isn't a playboy, I think this could be good. But as I always say, I don't want people to put too many eggs in one basket in the beginning. Pigeonhole. Yes, Keisha. Thank you. Thank you, Keisha. Keisha says, are you thinking that she was going to get pigeonholed into the homegirl? Yes, those are the words I was trying to think of. Zadia is pretty, but based on the way that I see men date on this show, I feel like she could easily be pigeonholed into the homegirl. We see so many of the men on the show going after the women that they want. Naeem seems to have the strongest connection with Zadia, but let's say Naeem don't want her next week. Like, what are we gonna do? So yeah, yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. We on the same page, okay? So they're flirty on the date. They're touching, rubbing thighs. They're talking about things that they do in relationships. Zadia talks about how she likes to spoil herself, and Naeem says that he's much of a protector in his relationship. So it seems like they're vibing real well. It was dark. They got some physical chemistry, that's for sure. So now we can go on to Frank and Tasia. Tasia, she was the one who actually surprised me, because I thought that she would have more men after her just based off the fact that she was thick, honestly. And that's not because I'm shallow. That's because a lot of the men date like they're shallow on this show. But they're proving me wrong this season. Tasia has not made a connection pretty much with anybody. She was upset at the beginning. I got 5 numbers and y'all got me in the bottom. Yeah, you was in the bottom. Definitely. Yes, Jay Antoinette. This is Naeem. Naeem was the one who said Tasia had a smile on her face, but not in her eyes. And that type of energy repelled him from her. And I think a lot of the men noticed that. So I'm actually glad to see it. I mean, I'm not glad she's not making a connection, but I'm glad that they are thinking with more than just, oh, she thick, right? So she's on a date with Frank. Frank is up there shaking them cocktails because y'all know he owns a cocktail bar, shaking for his life, trying to entertain her, make sure she's having a good time. And this is where I was like, you know what? Frank is just too smooth. It's kind of scary because somebody might end up getting played. But anyway, let's hope Aisha don't get played. So Frank is trying to have a conversation with Tasia. She starts talking about business. Yeah, I left corporate 1 year ago. I can work when I want. I don't want to work this day. I don't have to work this day. So yeah, I'm also an entrepreneur. I have a tech startup. That's not what we're here for, Tasia. I think she just doesn't know how to date. So even though you didn't go home this week, I'm gonna spoil it. Your man ain't here. So now, y'all, the men finally meet up for the final reevaluation or evaluation of all the women. And really, Courtney is Corey's number 1 pick. We see Tyrone. Shiloh is his number 1 pick. Cornelius also mentions Courtney and Camille. Now, y'all, Naeem mentioned Zadia. And y'all tell me if y'all peeped this. When Naeem said that Zadia was his number 1, Corey made a face. He said, and the camera zoomed in on Corey's face. So I'm like, you know what? I might need to be checking that OWN Network YouTube channel where they show the clips because there's certain dates we didn't see. Like last season, Kyra had a connection with David. We had not a clue. So I'm wondering if Cornelius also has a connection with Zadia. I don't know. So anyway, I noticed the face. As far as the bottom 2, everybody collectively agrees that Carrie and Tasia are the bottom 2. So Cornelius and Tasia go out on a date, and part of me was hoping that Tasia would just go home, just because her dates are cringe, but she was overly confident. So I'm like, just end it, y'all. Now the other date was Carrie and Naeem, and Carrie, girl, I'm not understanding why all these people think that these elimination dates are actual dates. It's like y'all really ain't been watching the show at all. You should know that by the end of the week, if you go on a date with somebody random, you're probably in the bottom 2. So I think Tasia was picking up on that, which is why Cornelius was like, you seem nervous. And she was like, no, I'm not nervous at all. Should I be having a drink? And ultimately, y'all, they decide that Carrie is at this time not ready to love. And Naeem broke it down to her in the sweetest way possible. He basically just said, your man ain't here. I have to agree, y'all. So that was it for Ready to Love. Okay. What were y'all's thoughts on Ready to Love? Y'all already know what's up next. That is Love and Marriage Huntsville. So I'm gonna give y'all about 10 seconds to like the video up while I read through some of y'all's comments, and then we'll get into the final show, which is Love and Marriage Huntsville. Okay, the mamas was getting into it, y'all. They definitely were. So let me see some of these comments. Peace says Walter will not pick Sabrina because he wants kids and she is done. That is true. I'm glad you brought that up, Peace B. because a lot of the men in the men's lounge, they mentioned that Sabrina was possibly the bottom 3 pick for a lot of them because the majority of them wanted kids. So it's interesting to see that she was at the top for everybody in the beginning, and now they like, nah, she's definitely not adding up. Jay says, when Carrie said, I don't have any more questions, I was like, cringe. Yeah, that was cringe AFK. She says, Carrie doesn't pick up on social cues when someone doesn't like her. Yeah, that was awkward as hell. Venice says, love the hair. Send the link to RTL, ladies. Thank you. Keisha is here for Naeem and Zadia. But yeah, I think we can go ahead and move on. Alicia says Tyrone got some work to do. He actually does. And I agree, Journey, with Jada. Tasia is still pissed from being in the bottom 2. But I'm kind of feeling like, Tasia, you on a dating show. Everybody can get it. Okay? Everybody can get it. Why do you think that you wouldn't be in the bottom at all? Obviously the men are out here making connections that's more than just physical, so that's why you in the bottom. I'm like, girl, why? Okay, so now y'all, we can go ahead and move on to Love and Marriage Huntsville. This week the mamas were really getting into it, and we got to see Dr. Francis again, which was nice to see. Dr. Francis wasn't wearing his button-up shirt, y'all. He had on a t-shirt and he actually had them arms on him. I was like, this is so weird. Like, I just never even imagined what Dr. Francis' arms looked like. And then when we seen them, I was like, this is weird. Okay. So y'all, the episode starts out with Kimmy and Maurice, and they're pulling up on the property. And she just has a whole vision for the property. Also, shout out to Kimmy for coming and talking to the Ooh Ladies First panel last Sunday. If y'all want to check out the interview, that's on Jay Lee's Corners channel. And we asked her good questions again. She came with it. So, yes, Kimmy and Maurice, they're touring a property, just looking at the land. And Kimmy has all these ideas. She's like, yeah, the driveway is going to go here. It'll pull up on the side of the house. We're going to do this, this, and the third. And Maurice goes, yeah, we can build a spec home right here. And she was like, what? This is the first time you're telling me that it's a spec home. So she gets upset because she feels like Maurice can communicate better with her. And I'm glad that they left this part in, because I was wondering if she felt that way about Monster. So in this scene, I thought it was interesting. She calls out that Maurice wants her to take the lead on projects, but he gets everything together for her. And then he's like, here, go work on it. She don't want to do that. She needs to be in full communication the entire time. But what was interesting was last Sunday, she said she feels like with a lot of things with Maurice, she's just on a need to know basis. If it has something to do with her, then she will know. But if it doesn't, then she won't know about it. But obviously, it seemed like it was something that bothered her, at least at the time that they were filming this scene. So she calls him out about it. And, he's talking about he already talked to Martell. Y'all want to know the part that took me out? Maurice said, I've already talked to Martell and I've talked to Uncle Mike about being one of our contractors. And Kimmy says, why would you talk to Martell? He don't even have a builder's license. And that has been the theme this entire season, y'all. Martell don't even have a builder's license. Martell has no say-so in what deals Mel does. He has no say-so in who Chris asked to work with. He has no say-so in the spec home that Maurice wants to pull up and work with Kimmy or his wife on. He doesn't have a builder's license. So that part took me out. And, as I mentioned, she said she felt like she's on the need to know basis, even whenever it comes to Monster. So then he ends up asking Kimmy to start picking up Monster from school and practices. So I have to say I disagree, y'all. Kimmy is the bonus parent in this situation. She needs to know everything in regards to business and in regards to Monster, in my opinion, because like she said, what you're going to do is take over a situation. And then in the end, you're going to ultimately ask Kimmy to help you with it. So Kimmy is just as much a parent in my eyes as him and Kai was. So I think that she should have known about the vaping situation from the jump. But I think she knows when bullshit is bullshit. And Kimmy is real classy based. So I think she is selective with what she shares on TV, because the amount of common sense and emotional intelligence that Kimmy has, I know she had a discussion with Maurice much more than what we've been seeing on TV. So I'm just like, girl, Kimmy is good. So they even left the lot with, kissing each other and being all flirty and huggy, because I think Kimmy is kind of used to this. So anyway, now we move on to Martell. Martell looking like, when your baby daddy asked for the kids, only for him to have the kids at his mama house. That's all I could think of. So anyway, in his confessional, he's saying, yeah, I'm having to do my daughter's hair. I'm happy that my mom is helping me. It's something that I never really wanted to know, because that's what I feel like a woman is for. Now, I will say, when he first said that, I was like, oh my gosh, Martell, you were so foolish. But then I was like, you know what? He's probably just saying that he never wanted to be in a situation to where he would have to do his daughter's hair. He would be a single father. Okay, whatever. So anyway, the kids go outside and they're playing, and he's having a conversation with Miss Marlene. And he says, I'm about to go to therapy with the guys. He says Marceau says that he's feeling lightweight depressed over the amount of things he has to deal with work. And he says, I don't think that either one of us is depressed, but I'm just going to go see what this therapist has to say. And his mom, she don't know any better. She's country, black. Y'all know a lot of black people don't believe in therapy. And she says to him, yeah, you fine. Be your own therapist. Definitely. A lot of people think that. Be your own therapist, or either they want you to go to the church to get some therapy for some people who's not really licensed or really don't know about how the brain and everything else works. So I'm like, okay. Then she starts talking about Martell. Last season, I felt like she was holding him accountable a little bit when it came to him messing up. She said that she wasn't happy about the extra grandchild, or she wasn't happy about him getting someone else pregnant, but she would love her additional grandchild, is what she said. Last season, she also mentioned how Martell did what he did, knowing what she went through as a single mother. So whenever she said that last season, she was more willing to tell him where he was wrong. Whereas in this scene, I felt like we seen a complete 180, because I'm sure she's been seeing things on the internet. She's been seeing things on YouTube, because y'all know Love and Marriage Huntsville actually be watching the reviews. So to me, it's almost like she didn't want to say anything bad about Martell, and she was in extreme defense mode. And I kind of was like, you know what? This is where the fuck Martell gets it from. Somebody has to hold him accountable. And his mom is really giving baby boy vibes. So anyway, she said, I don't care what nobody say. I don't care if you got somebody pregnant. Too damn bad. You done did the damn thing. No, he hasn't. He hasn't done the damn thing. And then, just like Martell does, she has to talk about how Mel was wrong, how she used to think that Mel worked him like a dog and all this other stuff. I'm just like, this is where Martell gets it from. When Martell needs somebody to hold him accountable the most, you feel bad. You don't want to hold him accountable anymore because of what people are saying on the internet. Yes, Journey with Jada. I was so bothered at this conversation. This is why we have too many grown baby boys in the world. Absolutely. I get it. The internet is making Martell feel bad. Okay. But at the same time, that doesn't change the fact that he did what he did. And the things that we're saying on the internet are just echoes of what y'all are probably hearing in y'all's reality. So hold this man accountable. Okay. Have him go to some therapy, figure out what he needs, and he can take the punches. Okay. You made your bed. Now you got to lay in it. I just wish that she would have held him accountable. And this is her role this entire episode. She jumps in, and like Destiny said, your bodyguard. She definitely was on that. I mean, I don't blame her because, I mean, that's your son. But some of y'all, I was just thinking, y'all, there has to be a correlation between, you see, like, adult women complain about the way that men are and the things that they want their daughter to have in a man. But then you have to ask yourself, is this aligned with the way that women are raising men. Now, don't take that too deep. I'm not saying that if she would have raised him differently, he wouldn't have cheated. I'm not saying that. But the things that you are willing to accept for your son are things that you're telling another woman to accept as a wife. So where does that add up? That's all I was thinking about when I saw this scene. One hot second, y'all. Okay, so yeah, I definitely had to think about that. So now y'all, Martell and Miss Marlene are also talking about the song from Mel, right? And Miss Marlene was like, yeah, one of the kids came up to me and asked me about the song. And I said, oh, she just singing about your daddy. And Martell was like, why would you tell the kids that the song was about their dad? And that's when she started to turn up. She said, hey, take that up with your ex-wife. And that's when Martell turned into a little kid and was like, no, I'm just saying, why are you acting like that, mama? He didn't want that smoke. So I'm just like, yes, naturally, Mara. She says Miss Marlene switched up and is showing her true self now. I agree. She feels bad for Martell. And I'm like, why do why do you feel bad for Martell when Martell doesn't feel bad for Martell? Because if Martell really felt bad for Martell, he would admit to what he has done without trying to throw Mel under the damn bus. He even did this in the therapy session that had nothing to do with Mel. I'm like, what is going on? Kay says Miss Marlene and Martell are mad because they money looking funny without Mel. Facts. I believe it. I believe it. So I'm just like, what is going on? Tiffany, she says, girl, I say this all the time. Moms baby their sons and teach women to be independent and strong. It makes it tough for dating / relationships. Yes, I think about that all the time. It's like you allow passes for your sons to do things that makes them essentially ain't shit, but you hold women to a standard to say you should only accept a man who does this, that, and the third. Well, are you raising your men to be that husband? Are you? Which is why I feel like a lot of women are deciding to stay single or either settling for things that women settle for when they raise their sons. So it's just something to think about. And I'm glad that they showed this scene because this was baby boy-esque. So let's move on to Dr. Francis. I had to put this clip in here, y'all. I felt like Dr. Francis was out of dress code and I felt awkward because I didn't expect him to be so old, like so fit and also old. I was like, damn, he actually got an arm on. This is weird. So Marceau, of course, doesn't show up. They call him. He's on FaceTime. He's supposedly running like he always does. Sir, the way I saw you running at that Destiny race, Marceau, you are not a runner. You are not a runner. His hips was looking wide. He was looking like he was one of the Lewis and Tiffany, whatever their last name is. He was looking like he was kin to them. So I'm like, you out there running just so you can get out of therapy. So Marceau ends up saying that he doesn't believe in going to therapy, especially not with Dr. Francis, because he thinks that Dr. Francis only supports women or men who think like women. So misogynistic. Okay. This isn't about sex. This isn't about male or female. This is about, I guess, just having common decency. So Marceau is going to make this his excuse for not going to therapy. Okay. Bet. So Maurice and Martell, this session seemed to be heavily centered around what Maurice had to say. And I'm assuming it's because Maurice probably was more open to the therapy session than Martell. Martell was probably shaking in his fucking boots because he didn't want to get red and he didn't want to have to look himself in the mirror. So I wish that we would have saw more about Martell. So Maurice explains how his brother Marceau was thinking that maybe he was depressed. And Dr. Francis was like, okay, so you think you're depressed because some of the things that society, labels about what depression is. So then Maurice gets into this conversation of, working and working towards the man that he wants to be. And he feels like there's a conflict between the person who he's destined to be and who his wife wants him to be. And that's when Dr. Francis just goes ham. He said, stop blaming your wife. He said, you have two wives in this situation, and they both have conflicting interests. So you have to decide what it is that you want to do. I feel like Maurice and Marceau both have the same thing going on. Both of y'all are using this man who I'm destined to be as a way to outrun things that you don't want to face. And that's what Dr. Francis was saying. He said, if you like something, you won't change it. If you're uncomfortable, then you will. So what I'm getting from this situation is whatever level of stress and anxiety that Marceau and Maurice is dealing with must be more comfortable than whatever it is that they're not willing to face. So luckily, if nobody took anything from this session, Maurice did. Maurice said that he would reevaluate, and Dr. Francis was such a blessing, and that he is going to start looking at things differently. Now, y'all, I feel like the core difference between Maurice and Marceau is that Marceau says whatever the hell comes to his mind. Maurice carries a little bit more professionalism to him. So I'm wondering if Maurice is saying what he thinks sounds good, or if he's really going to consider some of the things that Dr. Francis says. And I guess we'll just see with time. We'll see with time if he starts to communicate with Kimmy and value her as a equal partner when it comes to getting things done, business-wise, parental-wise, this, that, and the third. I guess we'll see. So while Maurice is saying that, part of me is kind of like, oh, you still a Scott though. So do you really mean that? I guess we're going to see, y'all. So Martell, the only thing we got from Martell in this scene is he says Mel really needs to hear what Dr. Francis is saying more than anyone, more than Maurice and Marcel and myself, because she always puts work before the kids. Okay. How is that, Martell? If you were able to cheat for 5 years and actually create a baby outside your marriage, who was watching them kids? Interesting. Mel is not in the therapy session. This has nothing to do with Mel. I wish we would have heard more about Martell. Even if we didn't, I hope that this is something that Martell continues to do, because you actually need a professional to tell you about yourself, because your mama not going to do it. All right, let's move on to the next scene, y'all. Now we get to the Destiny Race, cute little nonprofit situation. Y'all, honestly, I was just asking myself this on the couch the other day. I'm not understanding. Well, I guess I do. Marceau creates this false necessity to overwork himself. But the thing is, you're an entrepreneur, you build houses, you're on a TV show. And thirdly, you also have this nonprofit, okay? Whenever you have a nonprofit, I believe you're allowed to allot yourself a salary as long as the rest of the money is going towards whatever charity you're working on. So you're having this destiny race where basically you just write whatever you think your destiny is on a card and you run towards it. You have sponsors, you get money, you donate, good for you. You have multiple sources of income. This is another reason why I'm like, even though this is nonprofit and this is a cute little run, this is also a business. So you're placing this fake pressure on yourself to continue to overwork. So that way you can continue to build distance between you and your wife. So this first picture I have up here is Marceau and Tisha at the end of the race. Both of them run up to their board where they've written down their goals. Each one of their goals are about business. Neither one of their goals have anything to do with family life. Unfortunate. Hate to see it, especially since Tisha has been in therapy with Dr. Francis. You would think that family would be on the top of her mind, but I feel like she knows how far she can go with Marceau. And whenever Marceau isn't going to change, that's just that. I think that's just that. So I think she just goes back into her routine of being business minded with Marceau, and she knows that that's their only commonality besides taking care of the kids and raising the household, right? Monique, let me read your comment. Monique says, I think Maurice is worse than Marceau because he is older. He's just not married to Atisha. Ooh, that's an interesting way to look at it. Definitely. Let me read Keisha's comment. She says they all have issues on the show. It's just Maurice is, to me, the one with the least amount of issues. That's all. Interesting. Okay. Yes. And Marcy, oh, Marcy says Marceau is one dimensional. In Major says, I said the same thing to my husband. These people don't have any personal goals. Facts. I'm like, what is going on? This whole time, Tisha, this whole season has been about you wanting more from your husband. And then whenever you actually run up to your goal, it's all about business. Now, I also know that Tisha probably has a fear of rejection when it comes to her husband, which is why she knows to keep it surface level. So now, y'all, the other thing, Tiffany, y'all know she got to be the one to get stuff started. This episode, even though Destiny was the one kind of going back and forth with Miss Marlene, this whole situation or disagreement started because of Tiffany. Tiffany mentions in front of everybody, thank y'all for coming to our anniversary party last week. I wonder why every time we get together, we start to argue. And Marceau says, no, I don't argue. I don't do this. I don't do that. And that's where Destiny says, no, this is what you do. You're passive and you know that she's going to react, blah, blah, blah. And Martell actually says, see, this is why I don't argue with women, or this is why I don't accept this from women. And y'all, ultimately, I'm like, these men on the show are so upsetting. And this is where they're all a bit misogynistic. But I feel like we have the least amount of issue with Maurice because we see Maurice walk the walk and talk the talk. Maurice looks like a leader of his household, and it looks like he also caters to his wife. Marceau financially provides for his household. He seems to be a leader of his household, but he does not provide as a husband from what we have seen on this show. And then Martell, you don't have a builder's license. You no longer have a wife, but you still have that air of, I'm a man, so I should be respected. This is why. And it all goes back to the conversation and the baby boy things that I mentioned during the conversation with him and Miss Marlene. What a damn shame. And you know, every month, social media has this conversation about what do you think about women being submissive? Now, I think women falling into submission has turned into so much of a joke because you don't see men that's worth being submissive for. And these are the situations where I'm like, Martell, the audacity. So anyway, as Destiny is telling Martell about himself, Miss Marlene comes over, and I have to agree right here. Miss Marlene says, that's between him and Mel. It doesn't have anything to do with you. Now, the part I didn't like was that her reasoning was just to defend Martell and make him feel good about the shit that he's done as a husband and a father. Now, Destiny says, yes, but you weren't there. You weren't there, Miss Marlene. You weren't there. Tiffany started the thing, and Tiffany says, Martell, he demands attention. He gets it every single time. So Miss Marlene says, don't get beside yourself. They were taking me out, y'all. The mamas definitely was on one. Thank God Mel didn't say anything this entire time. And when Miss Marlene was getting into it with Destiny, Martell runs over and stands next to Mel. I think he was trying to make it seem like, I don't know. This whole discussion was about you and Mel arguing, but then you go and stand next to Mel because for once, I think he was happy that it wasn't him and Mel arguing. And for once that him and Mel could be on the same page, like, it's not us, look at them. Martell wants that old thing back so bad, but it's not going to happen. So let's move on to the final couple scenes. The final scene are the mamas. This is after the race. Miss Van and Miss Marlene are having a conversation. They're talking about the kids. They still gonna take the kids out together. You know, they family for life, blah, 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 blah. And then here comes Miss Wanda, y'all. Miss Wanda and all 28 bottles of spritz loaded into her head. So she comes over and she says, hey, y'all, how y'all doing? You know, we all out here dealing with the grandkids. Yeah, I understand. I talked to Mel and Martell about getting back together. And that's whenever both of them, Miss Van and Miss Marlene were like, no, That's between them. Nope. Like, don't come over here and talk to us about that at all. Then Miss Vanessa, she couldn't wait to call out Miss Wanda. And I was here for Miss Vanessa. Yes. She says, well, she made a post about the grandkids saying that my kids will be jealous and something about hair and all this. And Miss Wanda admits to it. Here, the conversation goes out of line. I don't even know where this came from. Miss Wanda is talking about Miss Wanda's hair was so hard. It was, y'all. Ain't no lie. I'm saying it was 28 bottles of spritz in her hair. Pump it up, all that. So anyway, y'all, they start talking. Yes, that's it. Miss Shay K. We was on the same page. Miss Wanda uses that pump it up spritz, okay? A bunch of bottles, okay? Because she was ready to run. Her hair was not going to revert. Her hair was not freezing nowhere being outside during this race. So anyway, as they start going back and forth about the kids, Miss Van says her issue with Miss Wanda was the fact that she said if women are dating married men, then she believes that the mistress should have everything that the wife should have. So then they start going back and forth. Wanda says, you gonna tell me you ain't never did that? Miss Vanessa says, I have never in my life dated a married man. She said, I don't do ghetto. And when she says, I don't do ghetto, Miss Wanda says, ghetto, shake a bone, I'll show you ghetto. I'm from the country. I'm going to kick my shoes off, shake a bone. Girl, Miss Wanda came over there. She knows her assignment. I told y'all that the TV show is probably paying her a couple $100 an episode so she can run down to the bingo hall and play bingo. So she comes here ready to shake a bone every single episode just to get some bingo money and be on some ghetto stuff every episode. So Tisha and Mel come over as they're arguing. Miss Vanessa took me out when she said, your little hands and your little brain. I was like, oh my gosh, you came from Miss Wanda and did not even have to talk about her hair. You talked about her hands and her brain. Okay. So then Miss Wanda says, okay, well, what about your big brain? Yes, and every single time, Monique, you're right. Every single time Miss Van said, woman, please. She definitely was like, bitch, like, hold on. It was a respectful middle-age argument. Okay, so Tisha and Mel come over, y'all. And this is the part where I started to get upset with Tisha. Mel, props to you, because that would have been my opportunity to wring my hands. I would have lost my shit, okay? Because if it was me and my mama over there arguing with another mother-daughter duo, it wouldn't have ended like that. Tisha comes over, and instead of trying to calm her mom down, she said, y'all both were wrong. You both this, you both that, putting her hands on Miss Vanessa's hands. And I'm like, what? The instigator in this entire situation is your mama. And you know that. Every episode is your mama. But because you were already feeling a type of way about Miss Vanessa, you try to come over there and use that as your opportunity to tell her how you felt while not holding your mama accountable. So as soon as she would have put her hand up to my mama, me and Tisha would have went at it. We would have been arguing. And Mel was the glue that held this situation together, because if Mel reacted to Tisha the way that I would have reacted to Tisha, everybody would have been fighting. So eventually, Tisha ends up walking away once she realized she don't want that smoke, because you try to put your hand up to Miss Vanessa and tell her to calm down. But whenever Miss Van said to you, don't touch me, that's when she said, okay, well, I'm going to take my mom and we're going to go over here. Take her. Go where y'all need to go. Okay. Exit stage left right now. So they left, and she has a conversation with her mom and says, I need you to stop jumping into arguments for my defense. Then she brings up the situation with Kimmy when they were arguing at Black, and supposedly Kimmy told her to shut the F up. Y'all saw it, I saw it. She didn't tell her to shut the F up. She used other words that was simply shut the F up in a respectful manner. So she talks to her about that. And that's whenever Miss Wanda says, well, I know when you have snakes around you. And whenever she said that, Tisha doesn't correct her. Tisha says, well, you have to allow me to watch out for them. So you could tell in this conversation with Tisha and Wanda what Tisha says to her mom about the people around her. Tisha be talking hot shit about Kimmy, hot shit about Mel as well. So even though they want to act like they're cool, they're not really cool. And Miss Wanda is gonna spill the beans. Tisha wants to keep the fake peace for as long as she can. And that's essentially all she was telling her mama. But next week, seems like we're gonna get into it again, y'all. This definitely was a show for the moms to act out, and I was just like, oh my gosh. Marcy says Tisha drags the bones to her mom. Keisha agrees with me. You could tell that Tisha be like, Mama, let me tell you what's been going on. Should I do it to my mama too? But your mama ignorant, and she just gonna come with the stuff that you are too afraid to say. So even though everybody thinks Wanda is ignorant, I believe Tisha was just ignorant, okay? She just knows how to fake act like everything is good. Naturally, Mars says Miss Wanda with her questions in ghetto. The other thing where Miss Wanda took me out is whenever she said she wanted to get disrespect for. Okay. Y'all too much. And that's whenever Tisha was like, just because you can speak properly don't make you no better than anybody else. Ignorant. So yeah, it is going to be an interesting week next week, y'all. We have been on here for an hour. If y'all could please do me a favor, and y'all know what that is. If y'all could please do me a favor and like the video up. Like the video, y'all. I need to add music and all that. If y'all like the video, I would really appreciate it. I had to switch over to my other brand. But yeah, like the video for me, y'all. I'm glad that I had talked to y'all this Sunday for brunch. Y'all know last Sunday I was really not feeling it because it was a lot going on. I was just overwhelmed by all the shows I had to review. But what we got tonight, y'all? Insecure comes on tonight, as well as Real Housewives of Potomac finale. And then we're going to get into reunions next week, y'all. But yeah, I hope y'all like the video, y'all. I will see y'all tomorrow with the rest of my reviews. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I will see y'all in the next one. Bye.